Yeah. No, I mean, it's the very first one that you see.
Yeah.
I know I look like crap. I don't really care. And I'm not wearing panties. You wanted to know
Well,
that.
we're bringing quarantine realness to everybody today.
Mhm.
It Man, it feels like we've been inside forever. I went outside today just for the sake of sunshine, not because I was going anywhere. And I think it's made a little bit of a difference. My husband even noticed that I was starting to look a little ashen, I guess is what you would say. Sarah wants to make sure you're
No,
wearing pants.
I would never say that because I know better than to call a black person ashy. That
Well, he didn't use that word. I was looking for the right word. Like not ashy, like dry, but like just pale, like the wrong color. Like I'm changing colors. I'm staying inside so much. I know my foundation doesn't match anymore. So that's usually a good indicator that I've been inside too long or outside living my best life at the pool. This time it's the opposite. But anyway, so today I thought we should talk about another building block to well-being that I think a lot of us don't focus on enough.
my
And it's
neck gator at fitnessprotection.com/online shop.
okay, awesome, awesome. Yes, that's probably one of the things that everybody should get. Like, if you need to pause right now and go make a purchase and come back, don't worry, we're recording. You can always watch this later.
I'm gonna show them this. This is what we were talking about. I'm super excited. If you go into our online store, you will see, and the online store link is right there. Boom. And
Awesome.
we have
I'm excited
another.
about getting that. Yeah, even though I'm not so serious about intense cardio or running, I may just maybe I can wear that doing aerobics once all this is over. Do you
I
think?
mean, why not? You can wear this as a headband, as a wristband. You can wear it in. I mean, I wear them when the pollen is really. If ever you see me wearing this, because the pollen is really bad, all it needs to do is keep the big pollen pieces out, your coughs and droplets in. It's not like you wouldn't want to do surgery in it, but it covers the basics. And frankly, if you're outside moving, it's going to do exactly that. If you're going to the grocery store, it's going to do
Yeah.
exactly that, unless you're doing stuffed food that you need to talk to Dalia and Jumi about, not me.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's been one of the things, like everything's sold out and I'm not interested in crafting right now, even though I could. I just would rather get something. So good. Thanks for sharing that link. So we're going to talk about sleep hygiene for a little bit. So one of the reasons why I thought today I should get some sunlight, I really haven't been having any problems sleeping. But one of the things that your body uses as a cue for when it's time to wind down and sleep and when it's time to be alert is sun exposure. So right now, with a lot of people not getting any, look at this unruly,
The
I don't know
hotness.
what's going on up there.
The hotness.
A lot of people haven't been getting enough sunlight. So make an effort if you're having any difficulty sleeping. First, that's a great polling question. How is everybody sleeping right now?
I am having the worst time getting to sleep at night. I got to say that. I mean, though I take the Lexapro, I have upped the dosage, and I've been doing really, really well. But even still, nights like last night, I was in bed exhausted because the kids had woken me up to watch. Mom, we need to watch Trolls World Tour. You don't understand how hard my life is, Dalia. You never will. They said, Mom, we gotta see Trolls. And so anyway, I as tired as I was, I still could not fall asleep until almost 1 a.m.
Wow. And were you ruminating or anything, or you just felt that your body just wouldn't wind down? Yeah.
I had
and
questions.
Sarah also is having kind of not so great sleep quality right now. So I think it's happening to a lot. Okay. So just kind of mediocre.
And are you having dreams? I'm having crazy vivid dreams.
Remembered a lot more dreams than usual, but they haven't been strange. But yes, you're right. They have been very vivid. I was reading that article that I think you posted or someone else, lots of dreaming. Okay, so fitful. Oh, I thought you said fruitful. See, I was trying to, I was like, oh, that's good. No, that's not what you said. Okay, thanks. I think a lot of us are on the same page. Anxiety has so much power when it comes to throwing off all of your natural rhythms. But I think one of the major issues that we're all having is that we're not giving our bodies a cue early in the day with a good block of sunlight that this is the time to be alert. It's like there's no clear delineation between when you want to be awake and when you want to be sleeping or relaxing. So that's something you could try for your sleep hygiene. Another thing you can try is making sure that you are making an effort to delineate between when you want to wind down and the rest of your day. So laying off the artificial light, making sure you adjust the settings on your phone or laptop if you really aren't done working with those yet. You know, do you use your blue light on your phone, MK?
What's the blue light?
Like, well, the night settings.
Oh, on my iPad, I do. On my phone, I have a BlackBerry. I don't know if y'all remember. I don't think the BlackBerry has that.
Well, maybe they figured something out, like why you don't really need it. I just think little things like giving yourself a bedtime and being consistent every day and getting up at the same time every day goes a long way. I don't know if it's been clearly measured how much of a benefit there is to just changing the backlight on your laptop. It's probably just best to pick a time when that part of your day is over and do something analog, like reading a book or listening to fitness protection, like listening to a podcast and just allowing your mind to start winding down at least 2 hours before you actually are hoping to fall asleep. Now, what do you think is the ideal amount of sleep? Like, what are some numbers that come to mind? Let's see if we get any feedback.
For me, it really is close to 8 hours, some days 9. And I've never been sleeping this much, but now, like, when I get that much, I feel so good.
And so that's how you figured it out. Basically, you looked for your own cues to see whether or not I love the title. Yeah, it really is a good idea to look at yourself or how you're reacting to different amounts of sleep to see what the ideal number is for you and be open to the fact that it will change over time. Some cues that you're not getting enough sleep would be if things are quiet for a little bit during the day. Like if you fall asleep because something's boring, then that's a sign of exhaustion. That's not you being a good sleeper. I know growing up, people would always say I was such a good sleeper because if things got still, if things got quiet, if I sat in a car for more than 10 minutes, I was out. That's not a sign that you're a good sleeper. That's a sign that you're sleep deprived. And for years, I took it as, oh, this is great. I never have trouble sleeping. But at the same time, I don't really remember feeling well rested. And I've mentioned it a million times. So by now, most people know I recently had a deviated septum corrected. And now I'm also getting treated for sleep apnea. And I don't fall asleep when I get bored anymore. So look at that. So that was not a good sign. That was a sign of a problem. So everybody's saying 7 to 8 hours. That's absolutely what the average is for adults. And for some of us, it's going to be more than that. Remember that that's an average. Some people may be less than that. Some people it may be more. And if you have teenagers at home, remember that it's natural through the life cycle to have different sleep needs based on what stage of development you're in. And aside from a newborn who sleeps like almost all day, teenagers are like next in line for who needs the most sleep. So if you have teenagers at home now, you have the ability to give them more flexibility when it comes to giving them as much sleep as they need. And that may be something you want to consider since inadequate sleep affects moods, affects your ability to learn, to assimilate information. And you know how you are when you're sleepy. Like if your teenager needs 10 hours of sleep and you only need 7, it's not fair to hold them to the same sleep schedule that you're on because their needs are different. So you just have to play with how you can make that work. It's almost impossible to get a child, a teenager, anybody to go to bed before it's their idea. So trying to enforce a bedtime may not work.
Try a
But
toddler.
I know, right? Yeah, they're gonna go to sleep when they're good and ready. You could force them to start doing the wind down, but if they don't want to do the wind down, that that's a little tricky.
Mm.
Um, I don't ever remember, probably because I always had problems sleeping throughout the night. I don't ever remember fighting about bedtime, probably because I was always falling asleep. Like I remember a lot of times falling asleep watching TV, and an adult must have put me in bed because I would eventually just wake up there. So
Aw.
I don't know what that struggle is like. It sure would have been nice to be able to breathe my whole childhood, but it's really cool now. But I don't think I needed to experience not being able to breathe to breathing. But anyway, it is what it is. Okay, awesome. Sarah Sleep says sleep is her superpower. So what do you do, Sarah, to get a consistent good night's sleep without interruption? Like, do you have any habits that you can share?
And if you can't share them, we won't judge.
Yes, if they're secret or private, that is not a problem. And other people who are listening after the, if you have any tips, please share them with the group, because there are lots of nighttime rituals that work for some people and not for others. If you could dedicate some time to deep breathing and a meditation or relaxation practice, that's helpful for a lot of people. But for other people who are having trouble sleeping because they're ruminating, that maybe won't work for them. So Sarah's supplementing with magnesium and being consistent about bedtime and exercising regularly. Definitely those two are proven to be helpful for the majority of people. So you may want to start with what works for most rather than going to what works for some, like the supplementation. So definitely consistency and getting your exercise. And if you're doing really intense exercise like running, you probably want to space that out from bedtime, because that isn't really going to help with the wind down. But it will help if you've spaced it well. What's the latest you usually go running, MK?
If I do a second run, and I tell others, when you do it, we call it pulling a double. When you pull a double, I really like to have as much space, like an hour between the end of the double and bed, if possible, and also keeping the heart rate really low. It's got to be recovery level around 130 cap. 140 is considered work. 130 is it's basically a shuffle.
Gotcha.
And you're not trained with the heart rate monitor. The people who have are cringing right now, like, oh, that's so slow. But it's supposed to be, because we don't want to spike your cortisol. We don't want your hormones going, we don't want you amping up in any way, which is what a really hard workout will do to you. Professional runners will make their second run of the day their hard effort run, but this is all they do. Most of them don't work. That's why they're professional runners. I mean, that is their job. And that second run of the day happens around 4:00 in the afternoon. So they got they wake up from a nap, do the hardest effort of the day, have a little downtime, eat and go to bed.
Right. Yeah. The way professionals approach this and the way the rest of us need to approach it, it's not going to be exactly the same. So it's a good distinction to make. What do we think some of the benefits of sleeping are? And Sarah shared that she's been doing meditation with an app, exercise in the mornings. That's a great way to place it. So that'll help you wake up without the help of caffeine. Not that there's anything wrong with caffeine in moderation, but know that the more that you consume and the more frequently throughout the day, the more likely you are to have difficulty sleeping at night. But what do we think some of the benefits of sleeping even are? Why do we even care?
Well, the perspective that I take when I talk to my runners about it is the fact that this is when your body repairs itself, and that this is the reason why recovery and rest is part of the training plan. And I don't write sleep in there because hopefully you're getting that every night, but it is part of training for a reason. If you don't stop, your body can't repair itself. You're just breaking instead of building. It's also when it's your cortisol will be lowering. It'll be at the lowest point of the day, which allows everything else to kind of move in and do the work. It's again, finally, even if you're dreaming, your brain activity is going to be at the lowest. So your brain is finally getting a bit of a break, comma too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you need it to do recovery and repair for your body and for your brain. So with all the stress that we're under right now, you need for your cognitive function to be as high as possible because of all the demands on us right now. And the better your sleep hygiene, the more consistent your sleep, the easier that will be for you. And just to wrap on a nutrition note, a lot of people seem to be very concerned right now about their dietary habits in relation to quarantine. Keeping your sleep consistent will help you be the way you usually are around food. So, however that is, we want to stick with what is typical for you. If you feel like you're suddenly having constant cravings that you're not accustomed to, and your appetite is through the roof in a way that's not normal for you, even though your physical activity has not changed, look at your sleep, because inadequate sleep does affect the hormones that regulate your hunger and satiety cues. And it also looks as though lack of sleep makes eating even more rewarding. And you would think, well, what's wrong with that? Well, nothing's wrong with that, except that if you're not actually hungry, but you are really fatigued, smelling food, you may choose to eat it because you're sleep deprived, whereas with adequate sleep, you wouldn't have any interest in it. And that may not work with your training goals. You don't want to restrict. You don't want to obsess over food. It doesn't matter if you gain weight while you're in quarantine. Who cares? It's natural for your weight to fluctuate and go up and down. That's just something to keep in mind, that inadequate sleep can affect appetite. So before we go straight to, oh, the food's the problem, or this food spiked my blood sugar and made me have cravings, it's not always the food. It could be sleep. It could be any number of things. So there's just one more thing to keep in mind.
If y'all going to talk to me about the quarantine 15, you better be talking about the naps you get used to taking in the middle of the afternoon. I don't want to hear about your weight. So it's the last thing you need to think about right now. But if you have embraced naps and take them lots, I am all for it. Tell me about your quarantine 15. Oprah would love it. That was her power nap, right? It was 20 minutes.
Yes. And it's so good for you to take naps. So even if your sleep isn't going great right now, remember that there's a lot of proven health benefits related to napping. So when you sleep, your blood pressure drops. If you aren't getting enough sleep and you also don't nap, that's more time during the day that your blood pressure may be elevated. Like, your body looks for those opportunities to rest and repair. So try not to deprive yourself.
Yay! I love it.
I'm closer to 15 minutes this time.
No, it's perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And what do you have in terms of starting cues? What does your sleep hygiene ritual look like? I've spoken extensively about how my skincare routine kicks it off. And I know that, again, that can sound a little vapid, where if I were to list the steps, people just go, oh my God, that's like baking. It's so many steps. I promise, like, my whole skincare routine in the evening, start to finish, takes exactly 3 minutes. Oh. And it's really, it's 6 steps, but it's 6 steps that like feel really nice. And once my day face has been washed away and my night face is on, it's just like, nope, mom's night face is on. Don't wait till tomorrow. Not now.
Yeah.
Night face. So night face for me has become a really potent thing for nights other than last night. What's your equivalent to that?
I love, my husband and I go back and forth about whether or not it's too cold or too hot in the house. But luckily, I don't know why he thinks he can't touch the thermostat. He doesn't ever touch it. He just complains that I'm freezing him out. But this is established that people sleep better at a lower temperature.
Thank you.
I like to turn it down and then bundle up. I've got a weighted blanket, and I already... Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I get distracted. I'm not good at multitasking with reading the comments. So we've got a good question. What is normal for a range? I would say it totally depends on the person. Very helpful, right? Nobody likes ambiguity. But I would say it's not good to weigh in because that leads to obsessing.
Yeah.
So a natural fluctuation just related to water. Let's say you're home more now and you're eating more high sodium foods because that's what's available. You could have a fluctuation of like 5 pounds that's just water. And
In
if
a
you're
day.
working out really, exactly, in one day. So, and if you're working out really intensely and your muscles are trying to repair, again, you're going to retain more water than usual because that's part of the process. So, honestly, and even a bowel movement sometimes can be a 3 pound difference. So, 8 pounds could be water and a good trip to the bathroom.
Yep.
So, but it depends on the person. Sometimes 8 pounds is 8 pounds. So I'd
NASCAR
say stay
drivers
off the scale.
in the course of a race, well, not that races are happening right now, but over the course of a race, they can lose up to 8 pounds in sweat. So I know like none of us are doing something quite that intense. They also like have to dress basically like astronauts. It's fascinating when the more you learn about it, like, oh, this is actually a really cool sport. But I tell you that to tell you this, like that those are extreme circumstances, and frankly, that's where we are now too.
Right.
So
yeah, I would say the best thing you could do for yourself right now is stay off of that scale. And unless there's some sort of sport you participate in that requires you to weigh in, like wrestling, I don't know why we would have a scale right now, because it doesn't contribute to wellness. Like knowing your specific weight, that information is not helpful to you. So it does more damage than good to know what it is.
there's an article I read. I'm gonna, if I wasn't producing right now, I would look and find it and share it here. But it's about the stigma of sweatpants and the fat shaming associated with just wearing. The only thing I can wear right now are my sweatpants, and I hate it. And I want to tell you, man, embrace the sweatpants, and whatever attitude your attitude is going to inform everything. No one is judging you right now. No one is in like a really good place right now. Some people have. It's definitely an easier time than others. Don't get me wrong, but we're all going through some trauma. So the less judgmental you can be of yourself, the more gentle you can be. Hopefully that'll be what we carry into the next. Like, why in the world did I care so much about sweatpants? Sweatpants are amazing.
Right.
I'm never taking, the only pants I would like to wear are sweatpants, and I'm never taking them off again.
I mean, it's been one major obstacle for me in getting to where I could just accept myself where I was and focusing on the things I could do to make myself feel better and to take care of myself, like engaging in forms of exercise that I love. And there's all these health promoting behaviors that you can engage in that are not inhibited by a higher weight, right? But a lot of times we won't do those things because we won't give ourselves permission because we think we're too heavy. But one of the biggest things for me that I couldn't stop doing was hanging on to smaller clothes and thinking like in an aspirational way about how I was going to get back into them. But it is amazing the difference it makes to care for yourself enough to only clothe yourself in things that make you feel comfortable. And clothing digging into you never has been and never will be comfortable. And it's not helpful, like what we don't have to be anything other than exactly what we are right now. We're just trying to get through this time. And this is a great time to focus on what is meaningful to you and what are the things we spend time on and keep looking at that don't relate to anything that we find truly meaningful for us. And I've been really filtering through the things that I see in my social media and the weight related jokes and just filtering them out. Sometimes the algorithm will change just because you lingered over an image. You could be lingering over it because you have mixed feelings about it. So you may have to deliberately go in and be like, don't show me anything else like this. To shield yourself. And some people who have a completely different relationship with food, maybe none of this is triggering to them. Maybe it's never even occurred to them that weight is such a hot button subject for so many people. So it isn't that the people who are posting these things are bad or have malicious intentions, or that it even had any effect on them, but it's only funny because we're all saying being fat is bad.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why it's funny, is because it's this loathsome thing that we're all living in fear of, or been taught to be in fear of. But the bad thing about that is, even for the thinnest of the thin, that creates this obsession with weight that isn't about anything but upholding that thin standard. It's not about your health. It's not about you being able to play with your kids into your 80s and 90s and beyond your 100th birthday. It's just about that standard. Because I don't see anybody posting jokes about, oh, my labs are going to be so bad when this is over. Yeah. Oh, my blood pressure. Oh, my cholesterol. No, it's all about the weight. So even when we try and cover up that our obsession is about the weight with all these claims of wanting to be healthy, what really tells you what's what is when something like this happens. What are people actually talking about and obsessing over and thinking about? It isn't the labs, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of distracted baking, which again, I don't bake. I got 4 kids. I can talk about why I don't bake all day long. But it's just not something I have the bandwidth to do or the interest to get into in my teeny tiny kitchen. And I'm seeing people talking about, like, I'm doing all this distracted baking, and power to them, kudos. We don't judge anybody for that. I certainly don't. It's just kind of like, oh, that's nice. Oh, you're learning a foreign language. That's great. I remember the first time I went on maternity leave and people are like, are you going to write a business plan? I'm like,
how? Like, don't people know that you'll be taking care of a newborn? Like, that's why you're going to be at home?
Basically. And then that's why I like made the noise when you said newborns sleep all day. I'm like, newborns.
They sleep whenever you're awake. And then as soon as you want to sleep, they're awake, as I understand it.
Yeah, it's been kind of funny for me while some of my friends who were not very sympathetic about, like, well, you just decided. I mean, you could have gone back to work. You just didn't try. I got laid off when I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And then we moved. So a place where I had no network. I mean, I stand by it. Like, I went with the flow, and the flow eliminated me from the job market, and it could have happened to anybody. But I say that to say this: there are a whole lot of them now that are sitting back like, oh my God, it's so hard, I get nothing done. I'm like, oh really? How about you just work when your kids sleep?
Right, exactly.
I mean, you've got one that sleeps in the morning, one in the afternoon. It's not that hard, right? So I am poking the bear all over stuff. So I've had to keep people, because I don't hate all of these people, but I poke my head out enough to be like, hi, hypocrite. And then
they even remember that they said it?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I make sure they do.
Okay.
I ain't subtle, Dalia.
Because they remember that time you told.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, but it's so easy. I just throw anything. I've got an audiographic memory, so this is. I have never been this free with it before, but it is very freeing for me. So I tell you that to tell you this, like, because I remember how that felt so strongly that now people are like, when I see the pressure, the productivity culture coming in and saying, well, I'm going to learn a new language and I'm going to take up this hobby that I've never had and I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm kind of like, whoa. That's almost as realistic as what people expected me to do with my quote unquote free time the first time when I only had one baby. So like, if you are not more productive than I was then during a global pandemic where you can't leave the house and you're probably not sleeping enough due to anxiety, you're winning at life. Winning at life.
Yeah. Yes. Please, everybody, be easy on yourself and take it one day at a time. I mean, it's really starting to feel like it's been forever. That's where I'm at today.
Oh, man. Woo, I say one of the things that, because to me, I don't want to say we're not hurting. We're all anxious and stressed out in different ways. But the thing that I'm clinging to that I've not had for the past 9 years is a husband who's home. He has traveled Monday through Thursday, sometimes Monday through Friday, with international 2 or 3 international trips of 2 to 3 weeks per year. At our entire marriage, like the 9 years of marriage, we've actually been in the same location, maybe 4.5 of them.
Wow.
He did the math not too long ago. So this is really fun for me. I have a warm body in the bed next to me at night, which is really nice because it was super cold last night. I have someone to talk to at the end of the day. It's like, oh, this is what real marriages are like. Not that ours is any less real, but I'm just like, oh, it's so cool to have another person around. The kids. So on one level, my daughter calls it endless Saturday. So in the worst moments, I'm like, it's just another Saturday, and we feel this way sometimes on Saturdays too. And so just clinging to that one little thing that feels normal, I guess. And so in the sea of abnormality, that's the best you can do is kind of look for those moments.
Yeah.
You know what they also used to do, Susan, with babies? They would push them in strollers to the grocery store and leave the babies in the strollers lined up outside the grocery store while they shopped in the 1940s. Have you seen the pictures of that? They're
no.
Google it. Yep.
Oh, that's a bad idea. And then, too, I know for a fact from people who had babies during that time period that some doctors were saying it was okay to give your kid a little bit of alcohol.
It isn't?
It is not.
Well, how do you make them sleep then?
I don't know, man. You just let them sleep whenever they want to sleep. And I guess you can sleep after they go off to college. I think that's how that works. I just remember from seeing woman after woman come in to the health department with her newborn asking, when are they going to let me sleep again? And us having to tell them like almost a year later, not wanting to break their heart. They just look so exhausted because when your stomach is this big, you have to get up every hour or 2 hours to eat. You have to. Your stomach is this big. And that doesn't work well for the adult humans trying to take care of you. I mean,
doesn't work well for the adult humans who have bariatric surgery either, but
that is another really good point. Yes. Don't that's for another day. I think that's a good point for us to put a pin in it before I get swept away with that thought process.
I love getting swept away with you, Dalia. This is my favorite. I look forward to this day each week. We got another podcast coming out where Dalia spits her mind without me coming in. Well, no, this is probably the first podcast where you speak your mind and I'm not there to like come in with my jackass comments, but
that'll be just funny because even though people can't hear it, you were still very active in the chat. Just very distracting.
And I
just can't hear it.
I sincerely apologize for that. I just I am stage mom for the people that I care about, and I'm like, well, tell them you did this, and tell them you did this. No, you forgot to. You stop being modest. So like, I want to jump in there and be like, she did. You know.
I felt so bad when I turned in my audio to Chris. I listened to it and I was like, oh my God, me and that space bar, man. I have the world's loudest space bar, but I don't usually type when we're recording and you can just hear, da, 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 da. It's just out of control.
But you know what? You're not having big old size into the microphone, so we're winning. Those are impossible to get rid of.
Mic drop.
You're amazing. On that note, we love you guys. We love you, Dalia. Thanks as always. Get some sleep if you have tips. If you have anything that helps you sleep at night or makes sleep much more likely to happen that does not involve feeding your children alcohol. We'd love to hear those tips. Put them in the chat. We'll respond. See you next week.